Welcome to the Mike and Alison After Hours podcast with your hosts, mshelah and Alison Haas, talking business with real business owners in the Mid-Atlantic region. Today's episode is sponsored by Advantage Industries. When you need business technology, get Advantage Industries to protect and promote your business. To learn more, go to www.getadvantage.com and schedule your first meeting to see if you qualify for a free network scan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mike and Alison After Hours. I am your host, mshelah, and with me today is the always engaging and now engaged Alison Haas. Alison, so happy to see you. Happy 2022. Thank you for kicking off the new year with me today.
Oh, I love it, and I love you, and I'm so sad I don't have my fancy bling because it's being resized, so I have a rubber plain thing on. But thank you. I couldn't wait to hear what you were going to say and how you were going to introduce me, or if we were going to share that with the audience. So yes, newly engaged woman, definitely a bright spot among some things that have happened personally in the last couple months, which is why we haven't been here. So happy New Year to you, Mike.
Yes, and our viewing and listening audience actually knows Alison's fiance, Dr. Michael Cairns, was a guest on our show about a year ago. The show had nothing to do with it. They were already in a relationship at that point. He just made it official in December. So super happy for both of you. And thank you for sharing that piece with our audience. So today, 2022. This is the kickoff episode. We are back after a very long and unexpected hiatus. We are so exceptionally grateful to have you with us today. And we are packing 10 pounds of fun into a 5-pound bag today, ladies and gentlemen. So you want to talk about HR? We're going to do that. You want to talk about leadership? We're going to do that. You want to talk about books? We are definitely going to do that. And speaking of books, you may remember that we had Gloria Larkin on our show a few episodes back, a government contract specialist extraordinaire. And Gloria has kindly offered to let us give away her book, The Basic Guide to Government Contracting. So, how do you win this book? Well, it is super easy. You watch the show, you like the show, you subscribe to our YouTube channel, or on iTunes, or on Podbean, or on Stitcher, or on TuneIn, or on Spotify, or on Audible. You can even ask Amazon Alexa to play our show. Wherever you like to listen or watch to your podcast experience, go there, do that. Then share us. Share us on LinkedIn. Share us on Twitter. Share us on Facebook. Share us on Instagram. And tag Alison or myself. And that gets you an entry into winning a copy of Gloria's book. And we will give that book away after our final March episode. So we will announce the winner in April. With all of that, our special guest today, very good friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Bourn. He is the founder of Downsetlead.com. And by the way, that's the name of his upcoming book. And yes, we are certainly going to talk about that. He is an HR professional. He is a leader. He is a coach, a very dear friend of mine again. So Rod, welcome to Mike and Alison After Hours. We are so happy to have you.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, and we'll have to share a funny story with our audience later about Rod being here. It's extra special, but to follow the football metaphor, I threw a Hail Mary and Rod caught it in the end zone and we scored a touchdown this morning. And I'm going to leave it all there for now. So Rod, the first part of the show, we're going to do a modified who, what, where, when, why, how with you. We want you to talk about Downsetlead. We want you to talk a little bit about the book. We want you to talk about leadership. And, how you engage with people, how you help people in the Mid-Atlantic marketplace be more successful. And then I'm going to hand you off to Alison, and then the two of you get to fully nerd out. You get to talk about HR stuff. You get to talk about the book writing process, some of the challenges that you shared with me when we met up last week. And just, it'll be two very different interviews. You'll see that Alison and I definitely have different styles, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool.
So, Rod,
bring it on.
Awesome. I start with that very general statement of who, what, where, when, why, and how is Bourn and Downsetlead.com. So take it away.
So I am, as you said, here in the Baltimore, Washington area, and my background's human resources. I tell people that's why I don't have hair anymore.
True.
Years and years of dealing with people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s that are acting like kids that are 3, 4, 5 years old in the sandbox that can't get along. And I know we'll get into it down the road, but the book that I'm writing now and will be releasing later this year, the roots of it came from all the stories that investigations that I ran through the years. The old adage that truth is weirder than fiction. And Alison, if you got an HR background, you know very well that that it's crazy what professionals have to put up with in the workplace. It's really ridiculous. But I've essentially through the years of experience and education have kind of turned that also into consulting that I do. I work with a lot of small and mid-sized companies in the Mid-Atlantic area, doing a variety of training, speaking, and I'm huge in mentoring. I think mentoring is vital to the success of an organization. So whenever I get the chance to talk to people about the possibility of putting a mentoring program in their organization, if it's large enough, I really encourage them to do that. And just kind of from all of that, with age comes experience, and you learn your lessons, and just the ability to kind of share with everybody else that's out there is, here's where I stumbled, here's where I found some gold, here are my secrets. And I think it's important for every person, especially as we get a little bit older, to share that with the world. And if you do it enough, you'll find the people that are willing to listen to you. That adage that when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. Maybe you can help be a teacher for somebody.
I love that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I want to grab two things out of that conversation real quick. First, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit more about mentoring, because I got to read the first draft of your book over the Christmas break and loved it. And I know you talk about mentoring a lot, and that's something from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that the best way to get better at what you do is by mentoring others, because it forces you to think more critically about how you go about your business. And by teaching others, you actually improve yourself. So that's one. And then the other is, you call it Downsetlead. I know there's a football theme to the book, and I know you've got some really cool stuff planned. Was it as simple as you're just a big football fan, or was there some other tangible to why you chose that methodology?
It just kind of happened. I mean, it was totally natural. Like I said, what I originally planned to do was to write a book talking about all the tales of craziness that I had to investigate. And as I was writing it, Mike, it really became more of this is about leadership and about dropped opportunities, and where we didn't train our staff as to how to handle the situation. That's why the situation got as weird as it got. And so, like, all right, leadership is what it's really all about. And this is about the time that I was forming my own company, and I was like, all right, leading is really important. And I'm a football fan. I wouldn't call myself a fanatic. I'm a huge supporter of the Ravens, but I would be hard pressed to be able to tell you every single starter on both offense and defense. My son is completely opposite. He can tell you all 53 guys on the team. But I like football, and it's a simple kind of metaphor. I think a lot of people, women included, are football fans. And
indeed, my wife can name every player on the Ravens.
There you go.
I cannot. So we'll just get that out of the way. I didn't even know, what is it?
Lead.
Pike. I know.
Downset Pikes.
Yeah, I didn't know that until now. So anyway.
Yeah. And so that's kind of, I was like, okay, well, how can I bring football into this? Yeah, I think that I get who I am. There are lots of guys that look at me. We're not young, bald, white guys that are like, oh, this is what leadership is about. And I hate, that, it's like, we're a dime a dozen. And it's like, what can I do to differentiate myself? If I can make my book fun, because Mike, as you know, I love to have fun. And it translates into the workplace. If you are not having fun, you need to look at why you're not enjoying work. It doesn't have to, obviously, it can't be a party and balloons and cake every day, but you should be enjoying what you're doing. If you're not, you need to figure out why not and where the disconnect is and fix that, work on it. And so in doing this, I kind of, I like football. Let's have some fun with this book. And ironically, as I was putting this together, Downsetlead has 11 letters in it. There are 11 players on the football side, and so each letter stands for it's a chronology of leadership. You have to do D before you do O, before you do W, before N. But it just kind of worked out magically for me that way, and that's kind of how I view the universe. Is you put yourself out there and you try to make something work, and the universe is like, good at you. Here you go. There's a little bit of karma on the list.
I love
Awesome.
that.
Yeah. So you brought up a couple of good things there. And I think the one that I want to focus in on for a moment is leadership, great leadership. Let me reframe that. Great leadership is a rarity in the business world. And I think a lot of that is so many, particularly small business owners, but I've seen it all the way up to the enterprise level companies. There's this ego that comes with, well, I'm the guy in charge, and I'm going to say it's 9 times out of 10 men. So I'm going to lean on guy pronoun here for a minute. Women generally tend to be better at it.
I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you on that.
Yeah, it's I'm the guy in charge. It's my way or the highway, and that's just a real shitty way to lead. And I've worked for those people. I've worked for many of them over the years. Now, on the flip side of that, I've seen what great leadership is. I've also seen firsthand what emerging leadership is. And emerging leadership can be a lot of fun. And so we've all heard in job interviews, you work hard, you play hard here. And that's 9 times out of 10, it's just crap. What that means is we're going to grind you into the ground until you don't have any resin left on your nose. And then we're going to chew you up and throw you away and get somebody that looks and acts just like you. So there's a lack of sincerity when people talk about putting fun into work. But I know that you are very sincere about it. And that it's at the core of your book. So you want to talk a little bit about how fun, leadership, and sincerity all kind of come together in conversations?
Yeah, I think, Mike, that it really comes from having a sincere care about your people and about what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, I am an unashamed capitalist. I'm, go out there, make a buck, but do it in an ethical fashion. And ethics also includes being good to people. And to me, taking care of your people is paramount to, if you take care of your people, you're probably going to do pretty well with your business, because they're going to show up and they're going to be like, wow, Alison really cares about me. Mike gives a darn. And I mean, if you just boil it down, I guess that's really what it is, and for people who want to be leaders, people who feel they are leaders, I would ask you this, right now, I would, write down the people that directly report to you. And when was the last time, next to their name, when was the last time you actually had a genuine sit down, check in with how are things in your life? Do you know the name of their spouse or their partner? Do you know what it is that they, what their 3 favorite hobbies are, what their favorite food is? Have you had these conversations where you have a relationship with the person? And if you do, then great. You're probably having fun, and they're probably having fun. And I know that the world's gotten crazy in the last 2-3 years. With COVID and how we're working and people leaving and everything else. But it goes back to the old adage and the study that showed, people will work in crappy conditions. People will work crappy hours. people will work for, crappy dollars if they feel they're loved and they're being taken care of and they know what's going on and why it's going on. And I get that it sounds simple, but to me, it really breaks down to that. Do you know and do you care for your people? Do they feel that from you? And if so, things are probably going well. And if you care for them, then you're going to, do things that they're going to be like, oh, that was fun. That was nice. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I think that's where it all stems from.
Wow, we could have an entire episode just on what you mentioned in the last 60 seconds, especially with everything that we've seen in COVID over the last couple of years and the Great Resignation and everything that came out of just business owners horribly handling how they treat and deal with their employees.
Now, let's give the leaders a break for a second here, because what we've just gone through, what we're still going through with COVID, through a pitch that no one really has ever really seen before. How are we dealing with this? But you've got to, at the same time, give some space for, okay, totally new shift on how work looks. How are you going to deal with that? So everyone has to breathe a little bit deeper, be a little bit more patient. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I love it. So Rod, before I hand you over to Alison so that you do your book and HR nerd thing together, I'm really looking forward to this. What is the best way for a business owner to contact you if he wants to learn more about downsetlead.com or he'd like to engage you for some coaching? What are the best ways to do that?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. I love LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is a really powerful tool. So look for me. It's Rod, as in hot golden lightning, Bourn, Jason's older brother, but without the E at the end. So Rod Bourn, look me up on LinkedIn, or go to Downsetlead. You can connect with me through there. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, both myself and the company. Or just feel free to reach out to me. I can give you my telephone number if you want. But look me up on LinkedIn.
We'll make sure that's in the show notes. Yeah. Rod, thank you so much. Alison, take it away.
All right. There's so many things, Rod, that I want to talk about. And
shoot, let's go.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on with us. And I'm going to try and steer the plan here, but we know that I always abort because that's just how our brain works. But I think that starting in reverse, having compassion for both sides, the employees and the leaders, and this uncharted time. Now, granted, we could argue it's not that uncharted anymore. We've been doing it. So it's like shit or get off the pot, right? You've either pivoted and learned that what you were doing isn't working or is. But that idea of take care of your people, what have you experienced? This is pandemic time in that transition. Have the people you work with been willing to and more open to things maybe they weren't before? Or what does the shift look like from your perspective working with teams and leaders?
Yes and no, Alison. I think that people are tired. I think they're tired. When the pandemic first came out, my feeling was that, okay, I need to learn Teams. I need to learn Zoom. I need to learn, all these things and how to still get work done.
Right.
And so you have that rough, kickoff time that you're doing. But then when you are looking at how, again, working with your relationships, having those one-on-ones, this is, when you're going through tough times, it's even more important to connect with your people, I think, and share with them that I know that we're going through tough times. I understand how this is affecting you, or can imagine how it's affecting you. This is how it's affecting me. And it's important to have, and it only takes 3 to 5 minutes, folks, where you say, sit down and say, Alison, tell me, to the degree that you're comfortable, what's going on in your world right now? What are you having difficulty with? Not that I can solve all your problems, but at least share with me what's going on, what's on your mind. Well, Rod, I've got 2 kids, and one is really not doing well, sitting down listening to his teacher for 5 hours, and I need to do my job for you, but I need to make sure he's taken care of, and boom, boom, and you have that conversation. And again, I don't think it's necessarily fair to expect your boss, your leader, your supervisor to be able to pull out a wand, wave it, and make everything right.
Right.
But at least you're having that conversation, and so that at the end of the day, Allison can walk away and says, well, at least Rod heard me out. And I believe that if there's something that he can do, he'll try to do that for me. And, so there's that. However, we're in the gig economy also, and that started before the pandemic. So there are people that are trying all these different things. And whether you agree with Amazon and Uber and how the world's changing, and this makes all the difference in the world now, whether you can make $1,000 or $1 million off of your phone, people are out there, they're trying, and we're never going back to what it looked like. We have no idea what it will look like. I mean, we're going to be paying each other in cryptocurrency. What does that look like? And that's scary. And so you have to, as a leader, I think, talk about the unknown, but share what you think and what you know with the people that you work with.
So 2 things I'm pulling from that. One, the simple question, how are you? Like you said, it takes 3 to 5 minutes at tops. And I can say, and I'll share with our audience here, without going down a rabbit hole, we lost my younger brother in early November.
I'm sorry to hear.
And my boss showed up here and literally took my computer for me, and my whole team, because that's like in the middle of our busiest season, right? We're closing business. And of course it was a devastating, surprising event, but everybody showed up for Alison. And like you said, if you care about your people, not only do they want to work harder because they know they're cared for, but that discretionary effort, that support. So like, I couldn't work for a little bit, but never once did I feel like I had to, or was supposed to, or that people didn't support me. And so the ROI that they get from me is tenfold, because I know I'm supported emotionally and not just as a robot producing in a factory. And that goes so far. And that started way before this happened, right? I felt comfortable in the first 30 seconds of learning that, of contacting my boss, because I had 3 meetings coming on my calendar to say, hey, here's what's going on, sobbing hysterically. And everybody showed up for me. And that's because I'm taken care of as an employee, and people support me and care about me. And so 3 to 5 minutes, take the time. And people don't realize, as entrepreneurs and employers, how far that goes with people. It's not just compensation, like that emotional connection. And I mean, you don't have to go out with their spouse and be their friend after work, but show up and know that they ultimately are going to be the ones making the money for you. Right. And they are your greatest asset. So unless you believe that, you're not going to get what you want out of them and out of your business. So I love that. And of course, now I forgot the other thing that I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to hear kind of what size organizations you work with. Do you just work with the leadership team? Do you work with their employees? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I work with small and mid-sized companies. I prefer working with, again, going back to what my biggest passion is, I'm crazy about mentoring. And I love being able to go into an organization that is large enough where they've got at least 5, 6, 7 senior people, experienced people, and be able to design for them a program where they can use those 6 to 8 people, maybe 10, 12, 14, and have the same number of junior people that they are mentoring, and administer a program. I'm not doing the mentoring. I teach the mentors how to be mentors. I teach the mentees the expectations of being a mentee. You talk with this person, you meet with this person, you don't ask them for $30. But that's what I really love doing. And I do a variety. I love to give talks, give keynotes, give workshops for companies. I was lucky enough last year to work with one of my clients. They're like, we're going to Duck, North Carolina. Make sure that you've got your COVID card checked off and everything else. And they got one of those sickly large it's like a small hotel, Allison, where the entire company went, and they had 22 people, and Monday through Friday we were workshopping. It's like one of those, wow, you got to work at the beach for an entire week. It's like, I was working. They were off having fun. But every Monday through Friday, we were up at 8, and I had a challenge for them. And again, we made it fun. I do things that and it was awesome because by day 2, I was getting notes from people throughout the organization. I mean, we're all there in that one location right on the beach, but notes saying, this is awesome. I've learned so much about other people. I've learned so much about myself. I can't wait to implement this stuff. And it's just really, really neat. So, on-site, off-site, I've worked with one local company. It was a really interesting situation where the vice presidents bought out the president. The president retired, and they knew that they had a culture problem. And they're like, we need to figure out how to build what we want. And so I went in and we talked with the new leadership team. We made a plan. I made sure human resources was there. That's one of the things that really gets me, Allison, is that quite often human resources is not invited to the table. And I said to them, I was like, look, I know that you guys, it was 3 guys who bought the company and they were running it. And I said, we need the head of HR in here because she needs to be part of this as well and make sure that, because she gets it, I mean, they all do, but she really gets it. She pulled me aside, Rod, I've been trying to tell them this for a while. Like, I know. And that's the irony of, having to hire somebody, a consultant, to come in from time to time, is they're saying the exact same thing as the really exasperated human resources director. And they're like, I've been telling them, like, I know sometimes you just need to have that person come in from outside. It's, your parents can tell you the same thing time and time again, but when your uncle tells you, like, oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. I was a horse trainer for a long time. And so I taught the same kids over and over and over again, right? It was part of the deal. And I would take them to like a clinic with this Olympian, and granted I wasn't, but this person would say the same freaking thing that I'd been saying, but because it came from someone that counted, right?
Yep.
And someone different, same thing for all of us. We need an unbiased third party view. That's why mentors are so exceptional and invaluable, right? And, or like CEO roundtables, get outside opinions. Like, you by yourself can't go it alone. And I love, and Mike said it earlier, the best way to learn your craft is to have to teach it and have to articulate it
100%.
to someone who doesn't know. And so I just love that whole methodology. And someone yesterday was asking me if I'd be a mentor, and so this excites me, having this conversation. So I wrote it down twice. 1, so I remember to talk about it, but 2, so that I go back to him and say, come on, man, bring them to me. I'm ready. Because I do it. And that injects passion. And I think, I love the idea of enjoying work. And I know for me, I've learned personally, I don't have to be obsessed passion. It is the one thing I live for, but I've got to at least want to show up every day and partake and enjoy it. And part of that is that rapport you have with your peers and your leadership team. And that culture is both parties' responsibility. Like, as an employee, I have to be willing to ask for what I need and communicate. And leaders have to be humble enough. That's actually what I wanted to say earlier. Humility, have humility enough to get their boots and hands dirty and get on the ground with their employees and say, how is it going out here? Right. And it's both parties' responsibility. You can't make a culture if people aren't receptive to it and know that they'll be met somewhere in the middle.
And I think you hit something very, very important there. Is it's the responsibility of both the leader and the employee as well. And so, being the father of 2 kids who are just now leaving college and getting into the workplace, I'm lucky in that they've got a lot of great friends, and they've brought their friends over, and I've met them. And hearing these young people talk about what their expectations are in the workplace, and again, and being that kind of uncle, where it's like, I don't know if it's really like that, guys. And this is why I think that mentors are so vital, is because they can say, you know what, slow down. I get, again, this can change the world for everybody, but you still need to put in your hours. You still need to learn. You still need to get your roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, and learn the business or learn the field, and earn your stripes. You can't immediately just jump in and, expect to be director in 3 years. And I get that the world is really different than, I started in the workplace in the early 90s. And, I think, I can remember very clearly being 2-3 months in. I was working in Baltimore City for a bank that's no longer around, and I was just wishing that someone drew a map of what the heck was going on in the business, and in the field, and and put an arm around it and say it's going to be all right, and that's what people need. And one of my favorite talks that I give talks about how it's like, okay, Rod, you keep talking about having an official program in an organization. What if I'm not in that situation? Well, most people aren't. People aren't. But there is a way to figure out how to get your own mentor and create that relationship for yourself and create I mean, it really is. I know I sound like on Scrooged. Bill Murray, I love, after he's like, I really get it now, but it really is that kind of magic that happens when, like, oh my gosh, here's an older person who's been there, done that, and they actually, care enough to sit down and explain stuff to me more than once.
Yep.
And it's a magical feeling. And it doesn't matter whether the person is 22 and they're just going into the workplace, or they're 52 or even 62.
Yep.
They need that connection.
Yep.
And you can make it happen for yourself.
Absolutely. And we could go on, and I know I'm supposed to talk about your book, but what I'm hearing is also the importance of an onboarding process and career mapping and giving that intel to the employee. Don't hide it for yourself. Employees need to know, is this a home for me? And for how long? And not just, I'm going to make, 10 figures in 2 years. Wouldn't that be nice? But like, you care about me enough to invest some time and then show me what the course is. Like you just said, like, I just need a blueprint. What the hell is happening, right?
Amen.
In the world and the field at this business. And that is HR, right? That is all HR. What is the first glance, and is it communicated?
One of my proudest developments, programs that I created was for an extremely large organization, but we worked for a division, and it was a mentoring program. But one of the very first things that we did was outline the complete organizational chart of it was a hospital. And okay, this is what the hospital looks like. And obviously hospitals are huge organizations. The people that were in the program were high potential employees, people who had been identified as, wow, they could someday really be, lightning in a bottle. But because they came in and they worked in their office, they figuratively worked with blinders on. They had no idea how large the hospital was, what the different functions of the hospital, did. And we had somebody from HR come in and spend about an hour talking about, this is what the hospital looks like, and this is what we do, and this is where what kind of needs we have. And you could see the light bulbs going off over everyone's head, because all of a sudden they knew, I'm not stuck in this job as as an administrator. I could be working over with the kids, or I could be working with the cancer patients, or I could be working, in radiology, or whatever it is. And it's key. Again, it's just communication, people, right? It's just communicating. Yeah. This is what's available, or this is what's not available, or, letting people know.
And I'm not alone in this, right? Like, I'm Absolutely. Not here in this closet. Like, I can get supported here or there, or they may want my support, and you become one of, and then all of a sudden you have some more value besides just I clock in and I clock out at the end of the day. So yeah, so clearly you and I could go on and on and on, but I do want to pivot here for the last couple minutes to your book. And who, if you had to pick the audience, is it the actual leadership team? Is it the employee? Is it a combination? Who is this book for?
It's for people who are leaders or want to be leaders. It's a relatively quick read. It is something, even in the foreword, I have it as, hey, you're stuck at the airport and you need something to do. Well, here's a relatively quick digestion that's full of fun stories. So it's for people that are interested in leadership.
Great. Awesome. And so process. So I've written a book. It's an autobiography. So it's me and my story, which the process for me, like, it was easy in that, like, I'm not making anything up. It's what I've experienced. But then it was hard because I'm like, who's going to read this? And I had to just cloud that totally out and just get to work. So for you, what does your process look like? I know you saying it's coming together organically. I have the same belief system, like, universe, here you go. If it's the go answer, the door's all open.
So the biggest obstacle that I had to figure out was, I know what I want to say. It's in my head. How do I get it down? Because I'm one of these people that I think far faster than I can talk, and a lot faster than I can type. And again, thank goodness for this thing, right? Talk to text. Yes. And I would I would go for walks, Allison, and I would just stream of consciousness. And I would just data dump it. And then when I was in a quiet time, I'd open it up and I could start to edit it and start to format, my ideas and clean it up and, add other things that I knew that I wanted to say. But that's what saved me in terms of writing it, was just talk to text into my phone.
I was curious about that. So I wrote it all out for the most part and then found an editor. And then he started to format and ask questions and for expansion. So you're doing the editing yourself?
No. Okay. I mean, I'm lucky enough that both my parents taught English, and which was, I gleaned a lot of good stuff out of that. However, there were times when it was really tough. I'd walk in and like, hey, you want to hear a joke? They'd be like, yeah. Guy walks into a room. Guy walked into a room. Okay, guy walked into a room and he said. Oh, you want to hear the joke or not? But so fortunately, I think I'm a fairly good writer and everything, but I know that I need an editor. That's one of the things that I just know about myself is because, if you want crazy, fun, great, unique ideas, I'm your person. If you want someone to fine tooth comb something, I am not your person. Yeah. And so fortunately, I met a guy, Lee Crumball, wonderful man. He's a former journalist. He's now a coach and everything else. And he edited my book, and I ran it past him twice. I'll probably run it by him a third time. Right now I'm in peer review. Mike was awesome enough to be one of my peer reviewers. And I respect Mike so much in his opinion, and I really appreciate what you did for me, buddy. But I've got about 10 people peer reviewing it. And so the book is 98% written. I'm going to look at what my peers are throwing back at me. I'm going to tighten them up. What I have there based on what they said. And the biggest thing now is, how am I going to publish? So I'm curious to hear about what you did, because one of the things I found, Allison, is it's really easy to spend a lot of money. And that's one thing that I don't have and I'm not willing to do. I'm part Scottish, I'm part child of the Depression. He passed those on to me, and I'm not afraid to spend good money, worthy money, but I'm not going to blow, tens of thousands of dollars or even several thousands of dollars just so that I can say, hey, look, I've got a book with my name on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And also to bookend the writing process with an editor, it's the same idea of why you have a mentor or an unbiased coach. Yeah. It's you can't read your own work without some kind of attachment to it. And I know my editor helped me expand on things that were obvious to me, but that as a reader, they had no idea what I was talking about. So he'd say, did you mean this? Or do you mean that? and then let's parentheses, write in a few descriptor words. And I was like, people don't know that. Oh, okay. And then as a reader, I would read it and be like, I'm so glad he said that. Right.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that process too. And so, and just being edited with life. Right. I just think like so often, and I'm quick to write, to send. Oh, did you send that about 5 minutes ago? Oh, I should have waited on that, right? And having people still edit my emails, my work, just take a look, take a back seat,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
hit the pause button. But for me, and then I think we have to let you go, even though we just want to keep you for the day. I went through Amazon to publish.
Did you?
This is not my full-time job. As much as I would love to be the next Glennon Doyle, I've had experience pouring what I love into a business and then losing what I love as a result. So I want to keep writing for me as a passion and my creative hobby. So I have a blog. I keep up with that when I feel inspired. But we went to Amazon and then put it on Kindle. And people ask me about the audio portion, which I just learned I'm not allowed to record it myself, which I'm like, what the hell is that? And I have to do more research. I've only heard this and asked one person, but I'm like, everyone wants to hear my voice. Come on. Like, that's why they're here right now listening to this podcast. Just hit them up. But it's like, it wouldn't be the same. But Amazon, it was a nominal fee, and then it's printed as people purchase. So it's not, you don't put in all this money, and then everyone's on Amazon today, right? It's one click away. So that is what I did. We'll see what I do in the future, but that was the easiest, softest, least bankrupting process that I found.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's a solid path. I really do.
Yeah. And seriously, Ron, this was so fun. Thank you so much.
I know I appreciate that.
All over, but it was great. We had a ton of fun, and welcoming into 2022 with you was great.
Well, thank you both so much. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely appreciate it. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, Rod, thank you so much for being on the show and for the Hail Mary again. Thank you so much for that. And for our viewing and listening audience, he is Rod Bourn. He is the founder of Downsetlead.com, which will also be the name of the upcoming book. And I guarantee you we will be talking more about Rod's book in future episodes. We might even have Rod back just before the book goes live, just to talk a little bit more about how it's evolved. That might be fun. So stay tuned for that. Thinking late summer, early fall 2022. But Rod Bourn, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, really guys. Be good.
Yep. Have a good day. Thanks.
And wow, Rod delivered the goods.
Yeah, that was fun. That was great.
He absolutely did. And what a great way to start our year, right, Alison? We've got guests planned through May of every type of leadership and topic that you and I could imagine. And we're continuing to add, and just awesome. And I think starting with mentorship and leadership and the things that go on in your world of human resources was a great way to give us some perspective to what to look for in 2022, right?
Yeah, because I mean, in the business world, that is the pivot that people need to embrace, right? That putting their people and HR as a hot ticket item, because people have changed the way they view their work, whether they want to or not, and change their priorities, right? Now that they have options, they've been forced into options, and now I think a lot of people are embracing them. And so as our business leaders are trying to figure this out for themselves, looking at HR differently, I think, is going to be the breaking point. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I want to spin that forward a little bit, because I think you're absolutely right. I think business owners need to take a hard look at every facet of their business, because as Rod said, we are not going back to what things looked like in 2019. Right. We're not. No. Things might look similar.
Yep.
In some aspects. I completely and wholeheartedly agree with that. Some things will look similar. but it's never going to be the same. And you and I talk about this all the time, that you've got to be, as a business owner, as a business leader, you've got to be really comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Standing on sand and
Yes.
keeping your balance.
Yep.
And I don't begrudge what leaders have to do. I am not trying to say, oh, being a boss is easy. It's not easy. It's not simple. We talk a lot about this. My company that I work for, Advantage Industries, we went through tremendous change in 2021. And I've told you this offline, that financially it was the most successful year of my career. And that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Now, is part of that because I did a good job? Absolutely, part of that's because I did a good job. But a significant part of that success is that our company took a very hard look at how we did things and said, how can we do things better?
Yep. Yep.
And we looked at the HR aspect of our business.
Yep.
And we looked at the hiring aspect of our business. And we looked at the operations aspect of our business. And we looked at our sales delivery process.
Yep.
And because we did all of those things, I can now confidently go into a selling environment and speak to a customer with authority. And I'll give you one great example, and then I'll let you talk for a few minutes, because I know I'm taking over the show right now. But we have a long-standing customer. Literally, they were customer one or customer two. Like, they've been with us that long, since 1999. That, despite the company's size, didn't spend a whole lot of money with us. Their IT person recognized, hey, we should be doing more with Advantage. He got stuck at the CFO. So we met with the CFO. He said, hey, we should be doing more with Advantage. So now we're at the president of the company. And the president pushes back on us and goes, well, guys, the amount of money you're talking about, we're going to have to go and get competitive bids. And we said, by all means, do it.
Yeah.
And here's what we learned. They went to two very well-known and reputable brands here in the Mid-Atlantic market. One of them, a global enterprise level company. The other one, just like us, Mid-Atlantic focused. They have more people than us. They're bigger than us size-wise. But as far as the clients they go after, the clients they serve, the market they serve, a very similar company. And guess what? Both companies cost more. Both companies gave less.
Yeah. How about it?
And that was an aha moment for us to say, we are doing this right. Not only are we delivering the necessary product to protect a business from a cybersecurity perspective, but we're delivering value.
Yeah.
Dollar for dollar, we're delivering real value. And that was a game-changing moment from us to get that feedback from a client, again, who's been with us for 20 years. And despite the level of trust, said, I need to do my due diligence. And we said, absolutely, go do it.
That's great. That's great. And I think knowing that times have changed, are changing, and if you want to keep your customers, you have to keep evolving, because competitors are coming onto the market. Competitors are here to do the dance. Now that our phones and our computers and technology, everybody has access to the internet, they do a lot of research online, and they don't even have to tell you about it, right? So I know for us too, my unnamed employer, we had our best year and fall as well. And it's because employers have realized they really do need HR support. And we are one of the only service-oriented organizations where we are packing in technology and people. It's not just a technology model where you have to wait for 10 years to get an answer when you call the 1-800 number. Like, we have teams assigned to our clients that know their names and their business case and are
Absolutely.
doing the work for them. And so people are starting to see the value, as you said, in that, and the priority, because there are just way too many things from a compliance standpoint to even consider having to do on your own. And I know we talked about this eons ago in early episodes, but like, how do you value your time? Where are you spending your time? Is it on the thing that is making you money and at what you're good at? Or is it doing the things that you have to do to stay compliant and keep your business out of hot water, but that really isn't making you any money, like non-revenue generating activity that is a requirement? And I will say, I started reading Gloria's book that we're giving away. And even if you're not a government contractor, even if you're just a business person or you want to get started, great basic 101 business sense for anybody out there
Love it.
to get started.
Awesome.
So I definitely wanted to throw that in before we wrap up here, that it's definitely a great lead just as a business owner.
Yeah, two things I want to take from that. First, our friend Leonardo McClarty, who we had on as a guest about a year ago, he said something to me in a panel discussion the other day. He said, do what you do best and outsource the rest. So
Amen.
that's message number
that.
one for the people listening to this show. Do what you do best and outsource the rest. And then with that, from opposite ends of the spectrum, Alison and I, our value and the thing I want everybody listening and watching today to remember is assessing risk. That's the value that Alison and I take away. You cannot eliminate risk, but the smart companies, the successful companies, they're going to minimize risk. They're going to take smart chances because there's always that chance you can fail. And failure is a necessary part of the process. But it's when you expose yourself to unnecessary risk that's what my company does very well from a cybersecurity perspective. We minimize that. And Alison, that's what your company does very well from an HR perspective. You're minimizing exposure, you're minimizing risk. And if there's one thing that will propel the audience into success in 2022, I think it's that. It's taking a hard look at where are you exposed and get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Where are your blind spots? Hey, my IT partner is great. How do you know?
Right.
My HR partner is great. How do you know?
Right.
Ask yourself that question. Are you just saying that because you've known them for 20 years? Or are you asked because you have tangible documented proof that shows the things that they're doing to protect your business? And when you ask questions, they engage with you about, hey, this is how I'm going to fix this thing. And it's not just our industries, right? It can be finance. It can be every aspect of the business. So what a fantastic episode.
Yeah, what a great way
I'm so glad to see you again. I was having Alison withdrawal because we hadn't talked in so long.
I know. Thank you for your patience. It's been
and your parting thoughts for this week?
No, I think this is a great way to start the year and to get things going positively, but also authentically, right? Like, hey, we're still in it. Things still need fixing. Don't be afraid, right? And I think the two takeaways: communicate and don't be afraid. You know, if you communicate, chances are what you're afraid of will be revealed, and it wasn't that big of a deal anyway. So go forward. Happy New Year.
Communicate and don't be afraid. Yeah, I like that. And again, mine was evaluate your risk. And if you think you're good with something, ask why you think you're good with something.
Yep.
So
don't be afraid to question.
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning into the first episode of 2022 with Mike and Alison After Hours. For Alison Haas, I am Mike mshelah. And remember, folks, people helping people. It's powerful stuff.
Have a great day.
Thank you for joining Mike and Alison After Hours. Tune in next time for another great business owner sharing valuable industry ideas. Want to be a guest on our show? Contact us at answers@getadvantage.com.